Hey everyone, so in this video I wanted to say a few things about the prompt for the essay that's due this week. The rough draft is due this week, and then also a few things about the midterm exam that's next week. So let's talk about the prompt first. And I went over um, I went over the prompt in the last video too, but I just wanted to clarify a few things. So, essentially, what you're trying to do is you're sort of taking the position here that Mrs. X either has an advantage over Miss Y, okay, or she doesn't, okay. Um, and if you're arguing that she doesn't, you're basically sort of saying that she is her own worst enemy in a sense. That her, um, her personality, her characteristics have this self-defeating quality to them that puts her at a disadvantage. So, I think if you're going this route where you're saying Mrs. X has an advantage over Miss Y, I think that is a little more straightforward. Um, if you're taking the first option of, you're saying that her efforts are ultimately self-defeating. What you're essentially doing is you're trying to make sense of this quotation. Okay. I felt that when I lifted my wings, they only dragged me down. I lay in the water with bound feet. The stronger I strove to keep up, the deeper I worked myself down until I sank to the bottom, where you lay like a giant crab to clutch me in her claws, and there I am lying now. So, this idea that somebody could work um, really hard and that extra effort can actually work against them is what we're focusing on here. The stronger I strove to keep up, the deeper I worked myself down. So why is her efforts self-defeating? What makes her attempts to keep up with and have an advantage over Miss Y? What would make them ultimately work against Mrs. X, right? It's kind of like, if somebody, let's say you really want someone to like you and you try really, really hard to make them like you, you're demonstrating a certain persistence. You are demonstrating, a certain amount of confidence and ability to, to sort of project yourself and put yourself forward and take initiative. All these things are strengths, right? But if you overdo it, or, if you try too hard to make somebody like you, then they're probably not going to like you, or at least that um, they may find you a little too much for them, or think that your personality is coming off as artificial or not very natural. And so if you're trying too hard, that could actually work against you, right? So in what sense is Mrs. X perhaps trying too hard? Okay. That's one way to think about that. In what sense is she ultimately her own worst enemy? And in what sense are the characteristics that might, might otherwise be considered strengths in her character be things that actually, when it comes to Miss Y, things that are there things that actually cause her to sort of sink deeper, and there are characteristics that actually end up working against her. Okay, so that's the idea. Again, if you're writing about, if you're deciding Mrs. X does have an advantage over Miss Y, like what characteristics does she have that that gives her that advantage. But if you're not, you're basically explaining here this with this first quotation, like how does Mrs. X sort of work against, her own intentions? How is she her own worst enemy? How do her efforts ultimately sort of backfire for her? Okay. And again, when you're giving your thesis, it should be an interpretive, unified statement. So I don't want a list of reasons why, why she has an advantage or why her perceived strength might be considered a weakness. Just focus on one. Okay, focus on sort of the best explanation of your point, okay, and your position. All right. And the thesis statement doesn't necessarily have to be one sentence. It can be more than one sentence, so you can take some time to explain the point that you want to make. And if you're sort of talking about, and there are aspects of your thesis that you can also, and you probably want to set up in your introduction as well. So if you're trying to sort of explain, like what is the strength that Mrs. X has, like what is the what is it about her personality that we might consider strong? You can set all that up and explain that in the introduction as you're building to your thesis. Okay, and then in your thesis, then explain how this strength either gives her an advantage or is ultimately self-defeating. Okay. All right, so that's the essay. So let's talk about the midterm exam. Okay, so I posted an announcement on the midterm. Essentially, what you can expect for that, there's I'm gonna have 3 matching sections with terminology. So you want to review the terms for argumentation, terms like ethos, logos, pathos, claim, issue, etc. So the terms from chapter 1, so basically anything that's in bold. And then, the literary terms, that we saw, especially the ones that were presented in chapter 6, things like imagery, protagonist, antagonist, diction, etc. And then I'm going to have a separate matching section for figurative language. Things like metaphor, simile, symbolism, things that are in the book. And then there's also a handout that I posted that also explains, common examples of figurative language. So you have the matching sections, and then the rest of it is going to consist of multiple choice questions that are similar to the questions you had in your reading quizzes. All right. So I also suggest that you review your reading quizzes, and to do so, what you want to do, you should be able to access your reading quizzes if you go into My Grades. And let's see. So you choose a reading quiz, say the chapter 3 quiz. And what you have to do is you double click the title of the assignment. Okay. And then it will go to a page like this. You can click your grade. You can see the quiz, and you can see how you did. So the ones where you got you got correct. Okay, your selected answer has the green check mark next to it because that was the correct answer. And then, so if you have some that you did not get correct, okay, your selected answer is going to have an X next to it, and then it will have the green check mark next to the correct answer. Okay, so that way you can go through and you can review and see which ones you got correct and incorrect, and you can see what the correct answers are. And so, so that would be a really good way to also review for this midterm exam. You have 4 reading quizzes in there, and that you can go in and access. With the midterm exam, again, you also have honor lock to deal with. Okay. That's one, that's why we're doing the honor lock practice test this week. So make sure you do that practice test so you're familiar with the procedures for honor lock and what you need. So basically, you need a webcam, you need a microphone, and you need a photo ID. All right. So, so with the midterm exam, you will also need those things. The midterm exam, you will not be able to use your book or notes. So no book, no notes for the midterm exam. Let's see, you'll have an hour to take it, which I don't think it's going to take you an hour, but I'm going to give you an hour. You want to make sure you take, it's going to be available Monday, and you'll have until Sunday to complete it, but you should not wait until Sunday to complete the midterm. You should take it earlier in the week, so that way, if you're for some reason you do have some issue, let's say suddenly you have an issue with your webcam, and you need to find another computer, or you need to get a new webcam to make it work, that gives you time to fix those issues. All right. So technical issues are not going to be accepted as an excuse for doing the midterm late. All right. So basically, if you wait until Sunday and then you have a technical problem, then you're out of luck. All right. That's what that means. So you should take it earlier in the week, preferably before the weekend. Okay. I would try to take it Thursday or Friday. So that way, if there is some kind of an issue, then you've got at least you want to give yourself at least a couple of days to fix the issue. All right. And before it actually has to be submitted. So again, if I get an email on Sunday, and this is the first email I've gotten from you this week, and it says, I can't take it because I'm having issues with honor lock, or I'm having issues with the webcam. Sorry, at that point you're out of luck. Like you should have taken the exam earlier in the week, and we should have worked out those issues before Sunday. That's so that's the policy. Let's see what else. Next week, you're also going to have the peer review and the final draft of your essay due. So make sure when you submit your rough draft, this week you're submitting it to assignments, and then also going to the discussion board and finding your group section's peer review forum. All right. So so you go into the discussion board. Okay, and so what I've done is I've broken it down. So you should see multiple sections. So if you're one of the Greer students, like, you got your own discussion board. Some of you are taking this class through JL Man, so you're in either J1 or J2. If you're not sure which one you're in, then you can always just open the forum and see if your name is there. So I have the forums divided by name. So you find your name, you open the forum, and you follow the instructions. And what you'll do is you'll reply, and in your reply, you will attach a file. Okay, and that file is your rough draft. Okay, and then so once you've done that, then you're going to you need to find 2 essays within your group to review. All right. So I want all the essays to be posted to the discussion board, by Sunday at 11:59 p.m. All right. So once you submit it to assignments, also submit it to the discussion board. So you do that both. So so you have both. So that way people can next week start looking through and figuring out who they're going to respond to. And so once you've chosen to, then go ahead and reply to the discussion board and say which essays you plan to respond to, so that way people don't all just choose the same 2 essays. So if two, if two ones that are in there have been responded, so if somebody has already claimed those, then claim 2 more, but in the reply. If there are not enough essays submitted for each group member to review by Tuesday, the 9th, then you can review essays from a different group. All right, so so if you're like, well, I don't have enough essays in here to do, then if by Tuesday there's still only 1 or 2 other essays, then still do what you can within your group's folder, your group's review, but then also you can go into one of the other groups to do it. All right, so there's no real excuse for not completing your 2 peer reviews. All right, so, and to get full credit, basically I want you to submit 2 peer review checklists, 1 for each review. All right, so I'm not going to require this time that you also submit edited essays. Though if you want to do that, if you're reading the essay and you add some edits and you want to add that to the discussion board because you think it will be helpful and you have done it, then you can also post edited essays. But I'm only requiring that you do the peer review checklists, and there should be some detail. So there should be some comments added to the checklist, either sort of explaining like what they need to fix, or even sort of explaining like what they did well, or something that you liked about the essay. Positive feedback is also helpful. Okay, so with this peer review forum, the peer review does need to be completed before needs to be completed by Thursday at 11:59 p.m. All right, so that's due a few days earlier because those should all be in before the final draft is due on Sunday. So you want to, I would just go ahead and get those done first thing next week. Get those wrapped up and get those submitted, and need to be Thursday at 11 p.m. The final draft and the midterm exam needs to be completed by Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Though again, with the exam, you want to have that done earlier in the week. Okay, so basically, the order you want to do things: first thing next week, just get the peer review out of the way. Then focus on the midterm. Maybe give yourself, a day or 2 to review for the midterm, and maybe take that midterm on, say, Thursday. I think Thursday would be a good day to do it. And then devote the rest of the week and weekend to taking a look at what you got back from the peer review and making final changes to your final draft. And then you're in good shape. Then you're done with the work for next week. Okay. So there won't be a discussion question due next week. It's just peer review, midterm, submit your final draft. All right. Okay, so that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Email me if you have questions. All right, and have a great week.